Hey, it's Brain Muffin back with some more articles. And this one I found on the BBC.com. World's oldest brewery, I like how they have that quoted, found in cave in Israel, because it's not really a brewery, it's going to be accidental beer. I bet you it's accidental beer, because it's always accidental because bread was first, according to these idiots. Researchers say they have found the world's oldest brewery with residue of 13,000-year-old beer in a prehistoric cave near Haifa, Israel. So that's interesting where it is in the Middle East. Discovery was made while they were studying a burial site for semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers. This is a myth, by the way. Anytime you see hunter-gatherers, just think very close-minded fool. Brewing beer was thought to go back 5,000 years. I don't know why that's Coors and Miller, I guess Miller Coors, several years ago had a documentary that they did on brewing, and they had evidence that went back much further than that. So this person's not up on the latest research, but let's keep going. The findings also suggest beer was not necessarily a side product of, we've already known that for decades. The research say they cannot tell which came first, and in October's issue of the Journal of Archaeological Science report, they suggest the beer was brewed in ritual feasts to honor the dead. It's amazing. Anytime you see the ritual, what this means is the archaeologist doesn't understand, so it must be ritualistic. Always. It is the R word. They don't know what it is because they're very close-minded. Remember, archaeologists don't have the math to do any other real science. They don't have chemistry. They don't have the physics. They don't know engineering. Yet they'll make all kinds of assumptions about these things, and I bet you none of these people have ever made beer anyway. The accounts for the oldest record of man-made alcohol in the world, a study professor who led this accounts for the oldest record of man-made alcohol. No, it goes back further. So they were looking for clues into what plant foods the Natufian people who lived between the Paleolithic and the Neolithic periods were eating, and during the research they discovered traces of wheat and barley-based alcohol. Traces analyzed were found in stone mortars up to 24 inches in deep, carved into the stone floor, used for storing, pounding, and cooking different species of plants, including oats, legumes, and base fibers such as flax. That's interesting. So you see a little bit of industry here. It's interesting. So how do they make the holes in the ground? That'd be interesting. The ancient brew, which is more porridge or gruel-like. Now that we've known. In fact, there's some tribes in Africa that still make a very weak beer that's more of a gruel with, I want to say millet, but it's been way too long. This guy's really creeping me out. So it looked quite unlike what we know today. Beer just 200 years ago was not what we really know of it is today. The research team has managed to recreate the ancient brew to compare it with the residue they found. That's interesting. And that's what Dogfish Head did with Midas Touch. That's how they came up with Midas Touch. This involved first germinating the grain to produce malt, then heating the mash and fermenting it with wild yeast. That's good. So it should be, since it's wild yeast, it's most likely a little on the sour side. It's fermented, but probably weaker than modern. Yeah, that goes without saying. So okay, so that's it. There's no comments, but that's interesting. So it's still interesting. What really caught my eye here was where it was located and the age. So 13,000 years ago. This gets it to around the time of Göbekli Tepe, the end of the Ice Age, the end of the Younger Dryas, when there's evidence all over the world of a massive catastrophe of some sort. They're still bickering over. I'm beginning to think we had solar flare activity as well as impacts on the ice sheets and stuff like that, because we have a 300-foot rise in sea level in perhaps as little as 18 months. So maybe even less. So the ice sheets, 2 miles thick, they melted very, very rapidly. And of course, that would also move the continents, right? So the North American continent, especially in Canada, ice sheets 1 to 2 miles thick, that is a lot of weight that's pushing down. All of a sudden that's gone, it's going to rise up. And then on the other side of that teeter-totter, say in the Azores or out in the Atlantic Ocean, they would go down, and that may be in part where Atlantis may be on that teeter-totter. So this is not far from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. And again, we have this hunter-gatherer nonsense. At some point, that is going to be completely debunked. It's already mostly been debunked, but we're getting really close to it. What I think we actually had are maybe semi-nomadic, but they were kind of farmers. Obviously, they have grains. They may not really understand how to farm properly, and they may still follow the herds, but they're semi. What's the word I'm looking for? So they're not completely domesticated, but they're like kind of semi-domesticated. Maybe they have large ranges where they wall them off or something. I don't know. But the hunter-gatherer myth is really just about done. But this is interesting. I like the age. It puts it in that time frame of some of the older things that go back like Tibet. I mean, that was something that was occupied for thousands of years. And I forget, there's a really good video on YouTube about why they sealed them up. Basically, there's things that are aligned to stars, and the stars move. And then, so they would basically decommission and recreate higher. But as time went on, the knowledge of how to build those went down, similar to the pyramids. The greatest pyramids are the oldest ones. So anyway, but that was interesting. So I would like to actually find out what the recipe is. That would be pretty cool. Excuse me. Maybe make it or something. That would be interesting. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for clicking like, and we'll see you next time. Bye.